Welcome to the LowCarbUSA podcast, where we seek to inspire you to help us build this community. I'm Doug Reynolds.
And this is Pam Devine.
Okay, so Tia Reid, welcome to our show.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, so I don't know why, Tia, you've got such an incredible story. And that's kind of what we always look for on these interviews. And I literally looked the other day and thought, geez, we don't even have Tia in our podcast interviews. So we're putting that to rights now. And so welcome. And maybe just start out by telling us your story, how you got involved in this space and where you started and where you are, kind of leading up to where you are now.
Great. I love it. Just thanks for having me here. And I just want to tell you, I was so sick. I had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver, which I was told that I couldn't get rid of, that, I probably always have it. And I had hypertension, obesity. I wore a CPAP at night. I had GERD. I really did think I was going to die any day. It was sad because I didn't even want to go out to I have 3 kids. Me and my husband have 3 kids. We didn't, I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't really want to have pictures taken or go to events because I just felt so bad. And just even going upstairs sometimes would leave me winded. And the kids were like concerned. They're like, Mom, we need to do something. You need to do something. You need to take control of your life. There's certainly something we can do. And my cousin had heard of Dr. Cywes, and the carb addiction doc. And he's like, why don't we get you in with him? And I'm like, my husband and I talk and we're like, there's nothing else we can do. We've tried everything else. I tried excessively dieting. I overly exercised. I started running and I was too heavy to be doing that. I got to about 250 pounds and I'm 5'5". So I just felt horrible. And my cousin's like, I think he can change your life. Let's get you an appointment. So we had a meeting with him and he said, Tia, I can only help you if you can get rid of eating carbohydrates. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because we owned a restaurant too, and baked goods and was part of my life and making breads and cakes and fried chicken and all that. So I'm like, I can do it if I'm ready because I feel like I'm going to die. So we're going to try this. And he goes, okay, because if you can't get rid of your love affair with carbs, I can't help you. And we did it. And I took this ride with him and it's been the most wonderful thing that's ever happened in my life. I was on over 20 medications. I got the list with me here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, why didn't you?
I know, you'll have to read that list because it's super powerful. Type 2 diabetes doesn't have to be chronic and progressive. It can be, this was all done with nutrition, with proper nutrition, with whole food, low carb, high fat nutrition, healed my body. It's a miracle, and so many more doctors need to get on board with this, and they can heal people. So I was on an insulin pump titration up to 200 units a day by pump, 50 units of Lantus at night. I was told I could eat anything I wanted in moderation by the diabetic educators I had been going to before, and I really wanted to eat because I was addicted to carbs. And they told me I could have 46 grams of carbs 3 times a day, 15 grams, for snacks. So by golly, that's what I ate. Okay. I made sure that I got all that. But anyway, I ended up having being septic one time with a kidney stone that got stuck in my ureter, and I got choppered out, put on the life support. And after that, I was prescribed allopurinol for uric acid in my kidneys. So I was taking allopurinol, still GERD. So I was taking Nexium, 40 milligrams of that. Hypertension, so metabolic tartrate. I don't know how to say that. I'm really bad at that one. But 200 milligrams a day for that, lisinopril, 40 milligrams. I was on Welchol, 625 milligrams, Tricor, 145. They had me on Lavazza gels to help with help me out here, cholesterol. Prevestatin, 40 milligrams. I was on hydrocortisone, 15 milligrams for adrenal insufficiency because I had so many tumors through the years, and one of them was in my right adrenal gland. So they surgically removed my right adrenal gland, but my left one had fallen asleep because my right one had overacted. So therefore, I didn't make my own cortisol, and I had to be given hydrocortisone. So I also had to carry a dexamethasone shot with me for emergency situations because I didn't have a fight or flight symptom. I also took Glycet with each meal for the diabetes, and then depression hit. So I'm like terribly depressed. Don't know why this is all happening to me. I'm doing what I've been told and just getting sicker and sicker. So next thing you know, I'm on Cymbalta and Wellbutrin. Cymbalta 90 milligrams and Wellbutrin 300. Vitamin D3, and then I was in pain, so I was given Norco up to, as needed for pain, 4 to 6 times. It was ridiculous. I just one thing after another, and at one point, I had seen a gastroenterologist, and they prescribed me 20 lipase pills a day for several years because my pancreas was unable to metabolize my food. So, I had to carry a suitcase with me for my medications everywhere I went. It was just totally ridiculous because I wasn't even, I was in my 40s. It's really sad what was going on. I would be dead now if I wouldn't have met Dr. Cywes and all of you amazing people in the low carb community that's kept me on my path. And behavior change was what was needed for me. And he made me see that, and I can't thank him enough for it.
Can you give us an idea of, okay, so you've got all of those medications now, right?
Yes, yeah.
All right. And the weight, you said you'd got up to 250 pounds or something?
150 pounds. I've lost about 85 pounds, and I've kept it off. I fluctuated every now and then, 5 pounds or so along the way. And I never did want to exercise when I started feeling so bad. So when I started eliminating the medications, the weight just kind of came off with it. So when I went to see Dr. Rob, I wanted to get off the medications, but I had no idea that I was going to lose weight so fast also. And
the weight is almost a side effect. I like to remind people, right? It's not the issue, it's the side effect of all the metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance that you had been dealing with, and inflammation in your body.
Yeah, it was all disappearing, and people were saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? I want to do what you're doing, Because
everybody you work with in the hospital also feels pretty sick, and that are sick themselves and putting on weight and don't know how to address. Correct.
And we've eliminated a lot of keto options on our menu, which is kind of cool. So we had to put a K by them, so people are like, "Oh, I want the keto option today because I wanna do what you're doing." So
you added that to your dietary. So you work in the dietary management department, correct?
Yeah. I'm the Director of Nutritional Services here, and at our local critical access hospital, 25 bed facility.
And they're allowing you to provide and indicate keto options.
Right. Not for the patients yet, but for the staff.
Oh, okay. So for in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's one step, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them try it and see some improvements and then think, okay, well, maybe we can give this to our patients.
Right. More whole food options, less sugar. Where we might have had a candied ham, we're just serving the ham, or fried chicken might be baked chicken. More than one vegetable option a day, steamed without sugars and stuff on them.
Good. And then if you can start influencing the what's served to the patient, because nobody wants to see someone who, you know, who's in the hospital because they're having diabetic complications and had surgery, or any of the long list of things, you know, that even you were just mentioning, and they're served pancakes for breakfast.
Yeah, and that happens here because the registered dietitian is in charge of the patient menus and making those. So if I could get the med staff on board for therapeutic carbohydrate restriction, which I've sent them the guidelines from the SMHP website. So hopefully we'll eventually get some bites on that.
Make some inroads, have a little grand rounds presentation if you can. It's hard because, you know, Doug and I were involved here with a gal who had her parents in an assisted living home, and we were able to use their activity room and have a potluck meeting, and we just started doing some presentations, and people who were attending got excited about coming. We had a 90-year-old woman come to the door and say, "I'm so sorry I'm late. Is it okay if I still come in?" And we're like, "Yeah, absolutely." She says, I was on a webcam, and she's 90 years old. First of all, I was like, wow. And I said, "What was it about?" She says, "Well, there's this doctor, his name's Dr. Bernstein." And I was so surprised. So she was listening to Dr. Bernstein talk about a low carbohydrate diet for type 1 diabetes. And she heard about our meeting and she came down. It was incredible to learn that she had found him.
That's
and
amazing.
Amazing.
And that's another thing, getting, as a coach, it's hard to find low carb practitioners in the area
Support.
that can do the blood work for them. And that, I think that, you know, blood work tells your story. You know, Cywes make sure I get mine, and he'll know if I'm not being good or if I'm staying on my path just from my blood work. So it is very important to have somebody that can read it. Read it.
So you
correctly.
said, like in the beginning, when that exercise was really tough and unpleasant and not desirable, but now that your weight's come down and stuff, and you're so much healthier, are you feeling inclined to exercise more? Do you
Yes.
exercise more? Do you incorporate that as part of your routine?
Yes, I do. And I started out with walking when I started to feel good, you know, mind cleansing moments, getting out there, walking the dog, just walking with my daughter, maybe just to clear my mind, getting out there. I think walking's really important. And Doc told me to walk after a meal, which I had never thought you should do, is walk after a meal, but that helps get my numbers down. I wear a CGM. That tells the story too. I think there should be so many more healthcare providers that have to wear a CGM on, so they can see, you know, it does educate everybody's different. Everybody's body responds differently to things. So the CGM tells me what foods do what in my body. And I know not to, you know, I know that I have to stay away from certain foods.
What were those foods, Tia? What were the things that you surprised you that you noticed being able to wear that and having some enlightenment and saying, "Hey, I didn't realize that"?
I tell you what I thought, you know, my typical morning breakfast would have been, before I took this journey, would be like oatmeal, toast, and a big bowl of fruit. Well, all of that was keeping me sick.
How high did your blood sugar go when you ate that?
Well, it would go up 250 to 300 on me, but I was pretty sick, you know what I mean? But right away I knew, wow, I can't eat fruit. You know, and now that I'm more insulin sensitive, I can have a few berries if I'm in a situation where there's a lot of carby food around and there's a fruit option, I'll take it over, but only berries. And you know, I started out with, and he had me start out with eliminating anything to drink with carbohydrate in it. So soda was out, you know, and it was okay if I drank a sugar-free one, because that got me on the right path, right? So it got me my numbers back in line. But eventually I didn't want that either. And then it was, you know, focus on three meals a day with good fats, you know.
Good protein.
Yeah, real butter. I'm like, I never ate real butter. Real butter. We keep a grease tin on our stove now and save the bacon grease. We use that. We cook with that a lot. You know, I tried ghee. I'm not too crazy about it, but a lot of people use it. I like coconut oil. All those things that I thought I shouldn't eat because I was supposed to eat low fat.
Low saturated fat.
Yeah.
Making
Now
me
suddenly
sick.
everything tastes better now, right?
I know, it's so great. And I get to eat the crispy skin on the chicken and the fat from the ribeye. I mean, you can't beat this way of eating. I mean, you can't get bored with it either. I mean, people say they get bored, but I don't know how. They're just not making it right.
Right? We know a lot of people who eat steak every day and they don't get sick of it. But,
Yeah.
to mix it up, we made,
And-
I was thinking about what we ate this past week and posting pictures. It's all different. It's all delicious.
Yeah. Oh, people love it when we post pictures in our groups. What did you have today? They want to know. So, and I started out with 3 meals a day. 3 meals a day, eat it until I was full, sit down with a knife and a fork, not eating in the car or on the drive-by somewhere, but eating actually in a meal like a family style, and you put some on your plate at a time until you're full. And then eventually I didn't even want the first meal, and I found out that breakfast wasn't the most important meal of the day. And now, as a ketogenic diet, I don't fat load, I fat fortify. But now I only eat 2 meals a day, and sometimes I only eat 1.
And that was surprising to you, like it was to me. The first time I ever, like you said, skipped breakfast, I looked at Doug and I said, I haven't eaten today yet. Or when I got to 3 o'clock, because I had gone and decided that in my schedule that walking was going to fit into my day better around 12, 1, 2 o'clock. And then I got home and it's 3 o'clock and I said, I haven't eaten anything today. And that was a shocker to me because you don't
Well,
want
and
to go.
I never knew until I met Doc that a snack is always an emotional event. So keeping a log of how I was feeling during those times when I was trying to eliminate all that stuff was detrimental for me, because I could look back and say, oh, I was sad because I got to an argument with one of my kids, or something at work didn't go the way. And what was I reaching for? I was reaching for a snack.
And that's when that happened. Not necessarily on your good day, but on your bad day. So you learned these tools and resources to help you through those times.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And now I know all about, he taught me about bridges and how to bridge in between, say it's not time for me to eat really. So I'm going to drink some coffee, maybe put a splash of heavy cream in it because dairy doesn't bother me. Some people may have an issue with dairy, but I don't. So a little splash of heavy whipping cream will hold me over for hours. It's amazing.
So, I mean, he even calls himself the carb addiction doc, right? So Dr. Cywes, that's what he focuses on, is most of these patients, and pretty much all the patients that end up coming to him, are highly addicted to sugar and carbohydrates. And so he treats them all as addicts. And I'm assuming you did the same thing with you.
Changed my life.
Yeah. So that was the only, so what you're saying is that without that, you wouldn't have been able to do this. There's so many people that, like, I wasn't addicted to carbs. I only found that out later because I was able to do it on my own. But it's so difficult for people to understand that that they need to get away from that addiction, and it's difficult even and that's why we're focusing on addiction in Boca coming up, because the practitioners, even the ones that now get that the ketogenic diet is going to be helpful, then they still don't have respect for their patients, a lot of them, when they can't stay on the wagon. Because they don't understand the addiction component of it.
And it's a brain disease. It's in your brain.
Yeah. And
that has to be healed first.
Right. So if you can teach, that's what we're going to do. We're going to be having the whole day is about addiction. And we've even got a workshop the day before.
I'm signed up. I'm excited.
It even starts. Yeah. And the whole thing is, it's actually to teach the practitioners. I mean, we're going to have some patients and although you really are a practitioner now, we can talk about that just now. But a lot of people that are just coming there to learn for themselves are still going to attend this workshop. But the main reason Dr. Trokalajian wanted to put it on was to give other doctors and practitioners tools to be able to help their patients to deal with this, because that's how we can make it sustainable. The people that are really, really sick and really overweight and have diabetes and all of that, they are way in the high end of the carb addiction scale. And
they need long-term behavior change. They need to, they have to take that in and get that in right for them to change.
You mentioned a couple of things, but what do you think was most useful in terms of the tools and the strategies and that Rob shared with you?
Well, the first thing he's told me to do was come clean with my family. So same as addiction is an illness, right? And same as an alcohol is to an alcoholic, or drugs are to a drug addict, carbs were that for me. So I had to sit down with my family and say, listen up, I'm sick and I have an addiction to carbohydrates, and I need you to know that I need to get strong. So I'm going to need you on my side. I'm going to need you to help me. So, we cleaned the cabinets out. We had that discussion. I had that discussion with my team at work and told them, hey, you might be making a pie today, but please don't shove a sample in my face because I can't have it. It's making me sick.
And so did they adhere to that? First of all, the family.
Yeah.
Because I think if they did, you're really lucky, because I've heard of people that are trying to do this where the rest of the family doesn't buy into it.
Well,
that's really hard. It has to be hard.
My family is totally amazing. So they thought, we want mom to be around. We want mom to be around. So we're gonna try this with her. So I got, my son still likes to eat a little bit of carbs, but he'll keep them in his room. My daughter was actually working for one of the top chefs in the country as a baker, as a French pastry maker. So during COVID, they got shut down and she went ahead and moved back home. But she was very interested in learning how to bake some low carb options. So that helped me in the beginning. I don't do that stuff very much anymore now, except for around Thanksgiving or a special event, but she'll make some low carb options for me. And, she'll only give me a piece and the rest has to go to work with her or somewhere else, because she knows that I can't have it in front of me because I'm still not strong enough to have that in front of me.
You'll eat the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, even though it's low carb, I'll still, it's not good to eat it all. So
Right.
Yeah. So it's really important to have your family on your side if you can. And my team at work was really amazing because they saw what was happening to me. They saw the weight loss. They saw my energy levels getting higher, and they're like, okay, we'll wait and make the cookies after 2:30,
After you'd left.
And some of the groups that I'm in, the ARC and Sugar X Global.
So Addiction Reset is Joan Eflin's group.
Yeah. And I'm also in Sugar Global, which is Dave Wolf and Judy Wolf and Anna Fruling. Wow, what great community of people to help you with your addictions. I'm telling you what, they give you the tools you need to succeed. And you can reach out any time of day for help if you need it.
That's a great resource to let people know about. So if anybody's watching this and they want to try to figure out how they can get support, talk to people who are also going through the same thing, and figure out how to get those resources and those tools that you've mentioned. I know you've been taught that, so you were able to say it. So if they can be taught, they'll be able to think about it and use it in their daily activities. And like you said, learn. If you have to start out and learn, say, I need help. And that part that you were talking about.
Courage. That takes courage to ask for help.
Yeah, it does. And we want to tell people how to be brave and have that courage. And, talking to your family must have been difficult, and especially then talking to your coworkers. You may probably, worked with these people for years, and it's like, wait, how do I tell them I have a problem? Right?
Some of them were like, oh, whatever. But others were like, okay, so I'm getting ready to fry some chicken. Do you want me to put a couple pieces in the oven to bake for you? And I'd be like, oh my gosh, they do get it. They do, you know?
Yeah.
Nice.
So one of the resources that that we're talking about, resources and ways that people can get help, is that set of interviews that I did with Dr. Rob Cywes on our YouTube channel, that apparently you were telling us before we started recording here that you've watched a bunch of them as well. That was the most amazing thing. You know, we were actually at dinner here in San Diego. He was in town, and he was just like talking at the table, and so much so that he's very commanding, right?
Yeah.
And like even the people at the surrounding tables were all starting to listen to him. It was like it was amazing. And I said to him, Rob, we've got to get this stuff down on, you know, can we put a couple of titles down, you know, of subjects that we can maybe do some interviews on YouTube. And so he went home and he sent me a list of, I think, 13 or 14 titles, like of different talks that he wanted to do.
First 9.
And we ended up doing that. And every one of them, we would start and I'd say, okay, so how long is this going to be? He said, 20 minutes. And an hour and 20 minutes, he's still talking. And, you know, and then there was
Over 20 minutes.
Yeah, and then there was still my questions to him afterwards, because the very first one, I actually interrupted him with questions. And in the comments that came out there, people were like crapping on me and saying, you need to stop interrupting him while he's talking. So then I started to make notes while he was talking and then ask him the questions at the end. But seriously, 13 videos that are just the most amazing resource. Yeah, it's incredible.
I reference them all the time, and I actually send them to people when they ask me questions. I'm like, you need to watch these first, at least the first 9.
And can I just tell people, if you go to lowcarbusa.org and you go to news and resources, there's a drop down and then videos. They're in the that section called Diabetes Understood by Dr. Robert Cywes. And there's 13 videos, all available for free to watch for anybody, or they're available through the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so there's a whole playlist on our YouTube channel.
Watched those first before I even made the call to him, and I was wowed. I'm like, wow.
And I'm wondering if, because one of the things that comes up for me with a question is like, how did you know, and how does somebody know they're one of the people who is addicted to carbohydrates and has a processed food addiction? Because nobody's really addicted to broccoli.
Yeah.
Nobody overeats broccoli. I did make a pork roast, pork shoulder in the Instant Pot, and I make it so flavorful, or you put it in the oven and it gets that pork crackling. There are times where I can overeat that because it tastes so delicious, but mostly I'll stop with a protein source and say I've had enough. And it's that part where you were saying put a little bit on your plate, and Robert Cywes teaches you that. Just put a little on your plate and then give it a minute before you grab more to make sure you're satiated. But I think number 1, where it says the addiction model, might be one of those things. But like you said, listening to those 9 might jog something where you say, I think that's me. Let me have you come back to that, Tia, but it's one of the things in the workshop that I think they're really going to address. And it's one of the things that Joan Iflin talks about, where on her Addiction Reset, I think it's addictionreset.com, she has a questionnaire for people to answer the questions and see, is this me? Am I the one that's addicted to carbohydrates? And for the practitioner to use with their patients, which is one of the things that we really want to teach people on that Thursday and throughout the Friday of the January event. How do I help diagnose carb addiction and processed food addiction?
Well, you might be talking about the Uncope tool. It has a series of questions, and if you answer yes to like 2 or more, there may be an issue there. And now that I am sugar certified and licensed as a sugar addiction specialist, as if somebody is really, really interested in that, I can do a sugar screening on them. It's a tool, a diagnostic tool the only one in the world like it, that's validated by ADDIS, and it helps you kind of like diagnose if you're a harmful user or have an addiction, and then it gives you a treatment plan at the end, and there's like 67 questions. But it's super great, and it actually shows you your curve. So you, after you answer these 67 questions, it kind of gives you a curve of your timeline of like when it started. And most people, it's when they're very young, when their addiction starts. Yeah. And it shows you your symptoms along the way, and it just kind of tells your story of your addiction and how it's progressed, and it, progressive. It's a pretty good tool, and you can actually after it's done, you can print off your treatment plan. You can give it to your healthcare provider or your nutritionist, and they can see the struggle you've been through and help you with your treatment, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So I was just going to follow this. I think it's got a good segue into where I wanted to go towards the end of this, was because as with so many people that we come across in our community that see the light, and suddenly they feel obliged to try and teach other people about it because they can't believe they didn't know about it, and other people don't know about it. And you've done just that. I mean, you've gone on to do a bunch of training in order to be able to now help other people. You started to mention, stuff with the addiction stuff, but you've gone so much further than that. Maybe to kind of end off here, I'd like you to kind of talk about what training you've done, what qualifications you've acquired now since you started doing this, and then we can talk about. Tell us at the end how people can reach out and get hold of you if they would like you to help them.
Great. Well, first of all, there is a video Dr. Cywes did called The Keto Train Wreck. If you look it up on YouTube, it's all about me. And at the end, he accidentally says my name somewhere in there, but it tells a little bit about my story, and in there, it's kind of neat. But because of him, he encouraged me to be accredited through the Society of Metabolic Health practitioners. And I followed the nutrition network path to get my accreditation, which it is the best community of like-minded people. The SMHP and Nutrition Network are top notch. If you're wanting to get some training, those are the places to go. I followed the training, and then I decided, I'd like to be a health coach, and applied to be a health coach, and they accepted me to be one of the first 12 coach practitioners. So I graduated. I'm very proud of that certification. And along the way, I met so many great people and like-minded people, and I was very interested in the addiction model, of course, since that's what healed me, was learning that I had an addiction and that it could be treated. And met Bitten Johnson along the way, and that's how I became certified and licensed to be a sugar addiction specialist. But the SMHP is amazing, and I would encourage any healthcare professional to look into joining this team of amazing people.
I was just going to say, I was going to ask you to tell us how people could get hold of you, but if they went to the SMHP website, it's thesmhp.org, and one of the main menu options there is providers, and you're listed in that provider list, right, with all your, your qualifications and everything.
Yeah, I'm also listed on Tracy McBee's Low-Carb Health and Healing Hub.
There we go.
She's been just fantastic in helping me with her insight. She has a great book called, I'm going to plug in real quick, called You Have Today. So if anybody hasn't read it, that's it right there. That's
on my
book. I talk to her almost every day now. She's been great. But you can also find me on Bitten Johnson's Addiction. I'm under Sugar Professionals there on her website.
Okay. And then do you have a website or?
No, I sure like to have one.
You don't have one?
You're
No,
not
I-
yet.
Build one.
I need to get one. I'm hoping to
What-
meet someone at one of your events that can help me with that.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find somebody to do that for you.
Yeah.
And then what about social media, and then how do they find you there?
I'm on Instagram under I'd have to look. I can't even remember what my name.
Tia, I think you're just under your name, Tia Reid.
Yeah, there you go.
You're Tia Reid on Facebook and Instagram. It's so amazing because we first met you online first before we had a chance to meet you
I
at
know,
the
isn't that
events.
cool?
It's so cool.
I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. And of course, I can't wait to go to Boca. So be there if you want to see me there.
I think-
Sign up.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
Vic Bismagian, a keto coach, and I figured out it was less than 90 days. I think we might even said 72 days.
I think he tweeted yesterday the countdown. I told him I'd meet him in the lobby.
Yeah, no, that we're super excited. You know, we always are as an event starts coming up, but this one, particularly with this whole focus on the first day of trying to address the issues with carb addiction.
I hope
Sugar
everyone
addiction.
signs up.
And yeah, and then the workshop is actually the day before, in the afternoon, while we'll still be setting up the hall and everything. We've kind of got a separate little hall where people that are able to come in early can do that. And there's speakers like Dr. David Unwin and his wife Jen Unwin who are just icons in the UK in this community.
Can't wait.
So they're going to be there to speak through the weekend, and they're going to be part of that workshop the day before. Dr. Trokalasian, who's the one half of low-carb MD that so many people know of, and then Joan's going to be there, and Rob's going to try and get out of his
Surgery
Thursday
day.
surgery to come and be there as well.
Yes.
So it's going to be an amazing weekend, I think, and
I can't take
take this whole community in a new direction where we start to become more aware and understanding of and tolerant of people who struggle, because we're starting to understand. It's taken me a long time to get there, where I didn't have disdain for people who told me that they couldn't do it, that it was hard, and I couldn't understand that. And it's taken me a long while to realize that there's so many people. I think even everybody's on that addiction spectrum somewhere. Some like way down here, like me maybe, and some people way at the top. But
And it
everybody
affects
has some kind of thing.
It affects every aspect of your life.
Mm.
Psychological, biological, social, and spiritual. Every
Yeah.
aspect. And
It
it's
does.
chronic and progressive, and it's not our fault. It's not our fault.
And yeah, that's what so many people need to know, you know. And I think that guilt prevents a lot of people from being successful, just because they can't.
Well, it's a lot of lying, hiding, and sneaking, and it creates shame,
Mm.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah,
doing
so I'm
that,
so glad you-
don't feel shame, because it's really hard. And like you said, it starts as children. We celebrate birthdays with cake, and there's every holiday. I saw a post the other day, and it was we go from the candy holiday to the cookie and pie holiday to the cookie and something holiday and to this celebration, and you go
And
into
then
the
love
grocery.
holiday.
It's everywhere. So, it's all around us. So we're trying to make sure that we can give people tools to figure out how to deal with that. You go to get gas and there's junk food in front of you. You go to get your prescriptions and
I went
there's
to get a
junk
filter,
food.
an oil filter the other day, and there was a whole thing of garbage there.
Oh yeah, Home Depot. You go to get the stuff to, you're doing a remodel at your house, and there's a whole thing right at the cash register to buy soda and candy bars and junk. And so it's really hard to deal with that environment and the cultural aspect of just let people be happy and let kids be kids. And it's like, wait a minute. We need to fuel our bodies and to being energetic and have the health so that we can enjoy family life and the fun things that you like to do. And like I see you're able to go boating with your husband, and you go places with your children who are adults now.
I didn't think I'd ever be able to get on a boat again. I
Right?
got it thinking.
Oh,
And that just reminds me, we talked about it off air before we started as well, that you have a pretty incredible before and after picture that you are going to share with us, right? And we will put it probably as part of the thumbnail for the YouTube part of this, but even for the podcast listeners, we will put it in the show notes so that people can
thank
see
you
that,
so
because
much
that's inspiring. It really is.
Thank you. And I just want everybody out there to know that there's hope. There's hope, and it's just one day at a time, one meal at a time. That's all it is. And it's to eat whole, real foods with no ingredients. That's all it is.
That's amazing, Tia.
A lot easier than we think.
yeah, I hope this inspires a lot of you out there who are listening to you take it one day at a time, focus on this. If you fall off of the wagon, get right back on. It doesn't have to be a whole big thing of just do this for yourself, do this for your family, just and reach out for help if you ever need it, and however you need it, right? I hope you've really inspired a lot of people, Tia, and you're going to continue.
Thank you so much for letting me share today.
No, I'm just sorry that it's taken us this long to get to do this. We should have done it a long time ago. Thank you so much for being part of it.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to an episode of the LowCarbUSA podcast. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/lowcarbusa.